Hello, good evening. Diggers have started work extending the runway at Birmingham Airport. The longer runway would mean the airport can take long-haul direct flights to major business markets like China and Brazil.
One report has claimed the increased trade could create almost 250,000 jobs in the Midlands over the next 30 years. But there's doubt that it will attract enough airlines if the government decides to increase airport capacity in the southeast. Our business correspondent Mark Goff reports.
This Boeing 777 from Dubai could fly direct to China, but it can't at the moment because the runway at Birmingham is too short. Which is why the runway is being extended by 0.5 kilometre. Long-haul flights need more fuel, which makes the plane heavier, so they need a longer runway to take off. And it's in China, India and Brazil where the business is and where Midlands businesses need to win contracts.
We've had to design some special guarding, which is what you see.
Steve Britton exports to the Far East and South America. If he flies there, he needs to go from London. And when his clients come to see him in Birmingham, they can only fly direct into London, and he has to pick them up in a minibus. Businesses now need to fly direct to where their markets are.
You may well get customers who want to visit London. What they don't want to do after a long haul is to have to fight their way through London, or for us to hire a minibus and go and collect them, sometimes from different London airports.
You'll be able to fly directly from Birmingham to places like Beijing, like Shanghai, like Hong Kong, like Denpasar in Indonesia, like Rio de Janeiro and like Los Angeles. So that's the global connectivity we suddenly will have that we've never had before.
But if the government decides to increase airport capacity in the southeast, and airlines like British Airways and Virgin choose not to fly from Birmingham, will this runway fail even before it gets off the ground?
Well, the thing for me is what Sean Connery said, never say never again. Who knows what BA and Virgin might do? They are currently doing a fortress strategy at Heathrow. They've got to protect their position at Heathrow. But look at the airlines like Lufthansa, who came out in support of Birmingham, or Emirates. 11 years ago, we didn't have a Dubai service. Now it's our second most popular route and may overtake Dublin in the very short term. So there are airlines out there that want access to the UK, not just the southeast, for the manufacturing that we do here. And I'm convinced that over the next 10 years, you'll see those airlines come in.
The West Midlands Economic Forum has calculated that if more airlines come to Birmingham because of the longer runway, it could generate more business, and that in turn could generate more jobs, 243,000 in the next 30 years. Mark Goff in Birmingham for Central Tonight.
Well, for more on this, we're joined now by aviation expert Paul Charles. Paul, thank you for joining us. And can you tell us, will this new runway guarantee greater passenger numbers and therefore increase business for the Midlands?
It's good to see Birmingham Airport extending the runway, which should mean there are larger planes able to land and therefore more flights, more passengers into and out of the airport. The problem is that there isn't enough demand by the airlines themselves to fly to Birmingham and then on to long-haul destinations. And I'm not convinced there is the demand either from passengers around the Birmingham region or in the Midlands to be wanting to fly to places like China or India, which are opening up dramatically.
Well, you mentioned there the demand from the airlines. We already know that British Airways and Virgin have said Birmingham can't compete with airports in the south. In fact, they went further by saying the government should not intervene to force airlines and passengers to use airports they don't want to fly from. Does that mean the extension is in effect doomed?
Well, put yourself in the position of an airline. You're under pressure at the moment in terms of profitability because of high oil costs. You're looking to run more frequent services to the same destinations that you make your money on. Why would you then start a service from Birmingham to Beijing, for example, in China, when you know there isn't enough demand?
So if BA and Virgin, for example, don't use it as a hub, what are the options for Birmingham Airport?
Well, if it won't reduce its fees substantially and if the airlines aren't attracted to fly in, the only other option I can think of is that Birmingham uses this extension purely for short-haul flights to the likes of Spain and France, where there is plenty of demand, and persuades airlines to reduce those fares. or it persuades new airlines based in China, for example, or India, to use Birmingham as a major new hub in the UK, specifically serving passengers in the Midlands and the north of England, potentially even Scotland, who are persuaded to use Birmingham Airport and its facilities to fly long haul. But I think that's going to be a very unlikely scenario.
Paul Charles, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Other news, the river